Oh, hey, how's it going? Happy Friday. Thanks for starting your weekend off right with Nerdy by Nature. While you're listening, feel free to crack open a craft beer. Sit back, relax, have some fun. Did you hear about our website? LetUsGetNerdy.com. There's show notes, fun facts, links, visuals, everything you need from today's show so you too can enjoy the episode. In case you missed anything, it's all there. All of your senses will be happy again. While you're there, feel free to subscribe via the web, Android, or iOS, whichever your heart desires. Feel free to continue the conversation on social media. After the show, beginning, whatever, hashtag, have some fun. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Search us up. Let us get nerdy. It's that simple. All right, we stretched our thumbs, got our controllers and dice ready, got our beakers out. Let's get to it.
Yo, this is dirty.
Stepping back in the past, going in the future, traveling all around in your mind to imagine what it would be like if something didn't happen, if it just completely changed. What if JFK was still alive? What if Hitler did what he did? What if Pearl Harbor never happened? 9/11, 9/11 in the States. What happens if the towers were still here? What then? Alternative history, pretty cool topic for those who like to bend their mind a little bit here at Nerdy by Nature. Start your weekend off right, thinking about what ifs. Harv, you're thinking. Chris is here, wow. Nathan, and myself, Elijah, to discuss examples, what we know of, as well as maybe what we'd be interested in when it comes to alt history.
Well, I can tell you this, Elijah, that if you weren't born, we wouldn't have Nerdy by Nature. So I think the universe would be a worse off place for sure.
You're sweet.
Well, I'm just saying. But you're right, though. Alternate history is kind of one of those fun thought exercises. I guess it's because we're left with the world and the universe we're living in. So it's kind of fun to just think and postulate what else could have happened. What would things look like now? And it started primarily in written fiction. And there's writings.
Tablets?
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything on tablets, but there's definitely probably some early paper and papyrus and whatever else they were writing on back in the days.
Parchment paper.
Hundreds of years.
Ink, blood.
People have been doing these what-if kind of scenarios, especially when there's been so many great wars and empires rise and fall. Of course, the people that witness these things, think about things like, what if Constantinople hadn't fallen? And what if, Napoleon won the Battle of Waterloo and things like that. What would the world look like? And so authors have been writing this for a long time, but more recently, some of these guys have gotten a little bit more popular. I don't know if you guys know Philip K. Dick. He's
fantastic.
Yeah. He's a pretty good writer, and he wrote this one novel, The Man in the High Castle, which is like a bit of an alternate history where what if Hitler won? Well, the Axis powers won, and the United States was then split between the Great Reich that controlled basically the eastern seaboard all the way to the Rocky Mountains, and then you had the Japanese controlled the West Coast basically, and so between the two of them, they split up the majority of America, and you lived in this new state, and what would that be like? And It was such a good little book that they turned it into a TV show on Amazon. And I got to admit, if you actually have Amazon Prime TV or whatever, or access to it, it's a good show. I just recently got into it myself, and it's pretty engaging. Although I would say it's also pretty depressing because, as you can imagine, living in the United States with Nazis, although that seems very poignant now, is very scary. There's just some imagery and just the way things are, like how they nonchalantly, get rid of the Jews or people of color or anybody that doesn't fit their perfect, if you're unhealthy or disabled, out you go. You don't fit in this little perfect world where kids are going off instead of, to Boy Scouts, they're going off to the Hitler Youth and things like that, right? Like,
pointed hats and the whole bit, pitchforks. It's really not an alternate history, but I don't want to digress too much. But it's kind of weird how much similar it is, even though Dick was writing a book about alternate history, and it's come full circle to fruition now in present time.
Well, I think that's kind of the power of writing, right? Is just kind of bring things to people's attention and try to kind of warn them of things that could have happened, you know, and
it could still happen, I guess.
Well, Hitler's not going to win the war. That's never going to happen.
True.
But
his, distant cousin,
but
apparently.
some different kind of ideological cousins, I guess you could say, could come to power in some other way. But I mean, that's a different, let's not digress, because that's a whole different thing. You know, you got Margaret Atwood's got that covered with The Handmaid's Tale, another great show and good book as well.
CNN's busy trolling that anyway, so let them have it.
So that's a what if in a different future. This is talking about how the world is different if something in the past changed. And so, you know, Man in the High Castle, it's interesting. It's a good show if you want to go through one of those things. It's set in the 50s, so it's like not right after World War II. It's a little bit of time has passed, but away you go. So
the boom of McDonald's.
That's just one example, though, right?
Yeah.
Because there's also I don't know how you guys feel about James Franco, but he did a really good job recently in another series. What was it, 11/23/63 or whatever, the day that JFK got shot.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it was about a history teacher that finds a way to travel back in time and try to prevent the assassination, and ultimately, you know, his actions create an alternate future. So I'd say it's a kissing cousin of the alt history genre, because he's trying to create a new history, essentially, and that has repercussions. It changes the world that he knows, because events in the past have been changed by him.
Yeah.
So you do find that there's a lot of relationship between alt history and time travel. Like even the Man in the High Castle, they kind of deal with a little bit of I don't know if you want to say, spoiler alert, parallel universes or time travel. But I mean, if you watch the first episode, a big plot device is this film reel that the characters have that shows events happening differently. Like the Allies win the war. So obviously people look at this film reel and they're like, well, this can't be true, or can it be? You know, like this could be a different world, or this could just be propaganda, right?
It's almost like Black Mirror-esque, where it's just stretching the truth just a hair.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, is it because this was like somebody traveled through time and mucked with history, or is it because there's like some veil between universes? One universe events occurred this way, and the other universe events occurred a different way.
If we would be ruled by Japanese government, life would definitely be a whole lot more interesting. Obviously, we wouldn't be completely to the point where, you know, their neighbors are Chinese and not quite the democracy that we love now, but technology would be booming, but the whole world would certainly be a different place.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing. Right there, you're making assumptions based on the Japan you know now, right? But you got to remember, this Japan, for better for worse, was cowed into submission using atomic bombs, which we can definitely agree was very harsh, but they decided it was necessary, and it did end the war, and it did create a Japanese state that was, you know, not so much like an imperial monarchy as much as a democracy, modeled very similar to the United States, very pacifistic. Like, they don't want to, you know, they had very strict rules, partially because they were enforced on them by the Americans, but still, like, their whole culture and everything had a significant change after World War II. Whereas, imagine if they had won, then they wouldn't have had to have that change, right? Like, they'd be a lot more, I guess you could say, aggressive and
brave,
assertive,
or confident,
and very much that imperial, you know, Japanese destiny to conquer Asia and much of the world. You know what I mean? And so maybe technology would be advanced, maybe it wouldn't be, because maybe they wouldn't have the need to focus on that because they're too busy, you know, conquering other countries or ruling with an iron fist.
So it could be just a different version of America because of the power trip or the confidence or the bullying across the world. Who knows what it would turn into? It could turn out to the exact same thing that we're used to now. You don't know. Before the atomic bombs, and it's anybody's game, if you will. A whole different currency could happen. Maybe be one world currency instead of all these different things breaking up and EU currency failing and BRICS and all that. And maybe what happens if that vote never happened? You keep going on and on.
See, that's the beauty of alt history is because you can dice it up as big or as small as you want. Like you can talk about the scale of, I think, something that would be close to a lot of people's hearts and be like the 2016 election. What would the world be like if we had Hillary Clinton in office? And some people are, saying their prayers every evening saying, thank you, Jesus, that Hillary didn't win that election. But there's a lot of other people that are probably crying into their pillows saying, dear Lord, save us from Trump.
Yeah, a lot of people voted for Trump because they felt that Hillary would take them into World War III and out the atomic bombs go. But in their surprise, it's actually the non-Hillary version that is threatening this nonsense with North Korea.
To be fair to the Trumpers of the world, we don't know, and that's the point. So as much as we could all write a book about what it would look like with Hillary's reign, but we'd all just be guessing, right? And
sure,
as much as I would love a crystal ball to kind of look and see, these are fiction novels. They're not alternate history textbooks because you don't know. There's too many variables, too many unknowns. Even the most educated person that writes these things, and there's a lot of smart people writing these with big history backgrounds and a knowledge of lots of things, they're still guessing at the end of the day.
Still all speculation. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
If we didn't come up with Canada, there weren't settlers here to come up with the accidental name of our country. Could we be swallowed up by the States, or would it be somewhere else? Probably don't know, but speculation it is.
I'm sure there's more than a few indigenous peoples of North America that would be more than happy if white man never showed up, because there'd be a lot more people alive. I mean, you could argue the advance of technology, but
I think it happened regardless. But
exactly, trade happens between people. As soon as two people bump into each other, one person has something the other person wants, a trade will occur. Whether or not it's a fair trade or whatever, you can get around that. But yeah, definitely, that would be a good source for a novel, right? Like that would be something interesting. What if the first contact was different? What if it was a more equal power arrangement instead of just dominant colonization, right?
Like aliens coming in the 50s. If they came and actually landed and then took over as
what
president.
if the government hadn't lied
There you go.
and said it was a weather balloon?
Oh, jeez. Okay, we're going off this.
What if aliens never
deep
existed?
end
And
is
it's the
here,
government's technology that did create all of this in some sort of conspiracy.
Well, I mean, we can go on with what ifs,
Yeah, but
Of course, that's part of alt history. It's a giant what if.
The one thing, little nuanced detail here, though, is it's more about established facts, right? Like, we know the Americans won the War of Independence against the British. Well, that's a fact.
And then we won the War of 1812.
We don't know
That's
about...
a fact.
Well, depending on who you ask.
There's some looseness in
Beer
that.
in the White House. It just because it's not in somebody's history books in the South doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Yeah, and they also, burned York and things like that.
Right.
And that's why we have Ottawa in the middle of nowhere as our capital because of the War of 1812. But
Yeah, wow.
the point is there's nobody knows if aliens are real or if they landed. People have theories, but that's not exactly an event you can say, what if that happened differently? When we do have first contact, then someone can write a novel of what if first contact was horrible and they tried to kill us all, or what if we killed them.
I think there are novels about that already, are there not?
Sci-fi, because first contact hasn't happened that we're aware of.
Just in Mexico.
Okay.
Right. Just saying. How come all the sightings are there? I don't know.
You're mixing up your illegal aliens again. There's aliens as in people from Mexico, and then there's aliens as in people from Omicron Persei 8. So there's
That's great.
You gotta keep that straight there,
I'll
okay?
give you that one. Fair.
But
Fine.
there was some good series of novels about the War of Independence. Like, what would it be like if America had lost and we were all British and drinking tea and having crumpets and things like that?
And it's still under the Queen and Monarch, and officially, rather.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's not a big stretch for Canada because we still got the Queen as our head of state.
Technically, yeah.
But it would be a big stretch for America, that's for sure.
They'd have to be on the imperial system.
That I think
metric,
would be
rather.
I think that would be a benefit for all of humanity, but that's a different story right there.
Do you think they'd be nicer, like Canadians are?
I don't see British folks necessarily being nice like Canadians. They're more direct across Europe. Less niceties the further east in Europe you go. It's more just get to the damn point. I don't care about this nice and how are you. I'm sorry. I don't care. I just want my answer. Cup of tea. See you later.
A common thing, criticism that British people will level against themselves is that they're very reserved, and so you could kind of step on their foot or cut in front of them in line, and they'll bottle that inside them. For the most part, they're not gonna have an outburst or correct you or whatever. They're just gonna kind of bottle up those emotions or feelings because they got to be polite and reserved, and
So they drive on the right hand. They can just bail when they feel the pressure. It's not a bad idea.
They drive on the left.
The right hand drive, no?
No, we drive on the right.
Yeah.
In their car.
Yeah, no.
No, okay. You are correct. The steering wheel
It's on the
is
left-hand side.
Yeah.
is on the right of
right-hand
their
side.
car.
Yeah,
but they drive on the left side of the road.
A lot of suicides.
What?
No,
That's
it's
not good.
It's the same thing as us, except it's just
flipped.
reversed.
It's
That's
just
right.
flipped.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So for them, left-hand turns are easy. Right-hand turns are the tricky ones.
So if they bail, there'd be a lot of suicides. What I'm getting at.
I don't even know what you mean by
don't-
bailing. Like just
Open,
swerve off the
open
road?
the door and roll because you bottle up the pressure.
okay.
Stay with me. Goodness.
And I'd like an alt history book where Elijah makes more sense more of the time.
If you elaborated more, that'd be great.
What if Elijah?
I have a lot of thoughts,
sense
and they come
all
out
the time.
sometimes.
Sure.
Yes,
What if Elijah was able to articulate his thoughts?
I do that. Just you don't know how to comprehend.
I
stuff.
wouldn't trade you for the world.
Thanks,
Okay.
man.
Oh,
Pumpkin.
No reason to get it all weird there, but yeah. So
late.
so other than people spontaneously bailing out of their cars in America, that was now still part of the British Empire. Yeah, it's. I think the best part would definitely be the metric system, and hopefully that outweighs any bad effects.
Hopefully.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to contribute something because you were really keen on the driving part.
Well, I thought that
maybe
I
not.
would let my thoughts be silent for a minute.
Percolate.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we could share our thoughts
Okay,
together.
I'll let you think some more thoughts
Thanks.
before I bug you about them.
Chris got into Alien 51. Is there anything else that would be more tangible that you'd rather see?
Yeah, like Chris,
flipped?
what is something that if I said here's an alt history movie or book or TV show, what would you want to see
Besides Space
read?
Odyssey?
no. I don't know. I hadn't really thought of it. I mean, I think a lot of people just didn't want to see war. So, for instance, if World War II didn't even happen,
That'd be good.
Oh wow,
Or would it not
that's
be good?
That's a pretty big one though, because
Yeah, that's a
millions
big
of
one.
millions of people, you just you put millions of people back on the planet,
Right,
Because they didn't
exactly.
die in a conflict.
And then there's no such thing as baby boomers. There's no such thing as oil crisis, perhaps in the 70s. There's wow.
Maybe we're not
everything.
Yeah,
technologically
like it would-
advanced because a lot of that happened
because of the
war,
yeah.
right?
Right, and we'd have a lot more metal.
We'd have
And because all of it got taken, as you know, for the war.
Right.
Yeah.
Scraps. It was
we would have no income tax system in place,
labor laws.
No nuclear bombs
no nuclear bombs.
would be a huge
Holy
difference
cow.
because they say the entire world is basically irradiated.
Irradiated.
Irradiated because
Sounds
of
right.
all the nuclear tests and actual explosions. So basically everything now is contaminated. Basically, there's nothing that has no trace element on it. Like it's obviously in just background, but still, like you take a sample anywhere and it's like it's gonna have a slight trace of radiation since the 50s and all the bomb tests.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Everything changed from World War II.
Yeah.
Everything.
I feel like that's a pivotal point in history where, like, I know the outcome obviously was not good, but there was a lot of good that came from it.
Right. As many people died, and unfortunate
Yeah.
as it is, there's a whole bunch of advancements. People are forced to accelerate human
Yeah.
growth. Wow.
Yeah, and like that's the optimistic side, right? Like the pessimist in me would say, okay, it wasn't that thing that started that war, but that there'd be another thing, you know? Like
World War One.
well, World War One happened in his scenario, just not World War Two, the one with all the more deaths and more nukes.
Yeah.
That we
what-
learned our lesson from World War One, and we're like, no, not again.
You'd
And
think
one could
so,
say
but
if there was no World War One, there would be no World War Two.
that's the theory.
Yeah.
If we didn't start this, let's say, slow moving wheel, perhaps that wouldn't turn into a snowball effect and say, we got to end this.
Yeah.
Let's have another go.
Unfortunately, I think the reality is that we might have removed that major conflict, but there would still be a lot of minor conflicts because, I mean, even to this day, right? Like, we should know better. We should know war is not the answer, but people still fight. People still, get angry and are like, no, this is the way things are going to be. And if you don't accept it, I'm going to kill you. And you're just like, well, why? Like, what is so important other than life to kill for? As stupid as that sounds, like,
Right.
It's kind of like, other than to protect your life or someone else's life, why would you be willing to go that far? Like,
Or my country is better than your country, so that I'm going to risk my whole country, throw up some nukes in the air, and say, "Ha ha, got you beat."
yeah,
It's not a game. People treat it like that, and they forget. You get into power, and you get into greed, and then poof, the rest is history.
yeah. I would love to think, what if we lived in a world where there was no war, but again, that's beyond alt history, and that's just like pure fiction, pure imaginative history, because
Sure is.
we're at the end of the day, we're still human beings, so I personally would, like something like the ones where, what if the war of 1812 turned out different and we were all Americans or something like that. That those are fun thought exercises, because at the end of the day, I would imagine I'm still there. I'm still just me, except instead of being Canadian and saying A and like in our maple syrup, we'd talk like Americans and
Like we're in Minnesota or something like that.
well, more like
And
Michigan
still
and
like
New
the
York.
maple syrup.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
but not say A.
Or say it at the beginning of a sentence rather than the end.
Don't know what you're talking about. But
If we didn't have Henry Ford, speaking of Americans, the whole vehicle, would that still be around today?
yeah,
I think
Or
so,
do you
yeah.
think it's just
so.
him that just happened to mass produce it then, and somebody would have eventually?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the diesel engine already existed out in
Right.
Europe.
And there were other people that were trying to manufacture cars
Yeah.
at the
All
same
at the
time.
same
So he just
time,
got
yeah.
there
It's just
first.
Ford he had the resources behind him to be able to
Right.
for everybody else.
That would, like that's a good example of something that's maybe a little bit too narrow in terms of that. We would still have the car. It would just be someone else did it. We would still have advanced manufacturing. Someone else would have done it. But the things that would definitely be impacted is, like Detroit, right? Like maybe then with no Ford, it never becomes like Motor City, right?
Or the big three.
Well, exactly. And so that's a huge amount of development and wealth and everything that's created that's poof is gone. And that would have impacts. Like maybe the impacts would be a lot more minute, like contained,
localized, yeah.
But again, it's something like, I guess you could say it's the old Jurassic Park thing, like life finds a way, right? Like you remove an inventor, and hate to say it, even if you say something like, what if Steve Jobs wasn't well, we might not have the iPhone, but we might have like the I can't even think of a stupid name for a phone.
The D
The
phone.
orange Me phone.
Yeah, exactly. Something.
You'd have a version of it because
Exactly.
the technology just moves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Would it necessarily be one single monopoly? Probably, because that's generally what happens. Is whoever's first out the gate with the best idea usually succeeds for a period of time. And then they crumble to the competition, like Microsoft, right? Like
Sure.
they started building computers, but then they're like, oh goodness, IBM's building computers better than we are. We better pivot and do software instead, And so it's just
Gamble
like
worked.
I mean, it worked, but even now, right? Like Microsoft's not near the heights it used to be because too many competitors. Like Windows might still be installed on a lot of things, but a lot of people say the day of the computer is basically past, and now it's the day of like the device, like the tablet or the phone.
Sure.
And on those, you're getting a lot more Android platforms, right? Like Microsoft's not the dominant platform in those.
Right. Or Linux is now offered in Windows 10 store. So
Yeah,
that's a
there you
perfect
go.
example.
Yeah.
How they know they have to kind of given in and saying, okay, we're white flag up. We're just going to recognize that so many Linux users want to use both Windows and other operating systems. You're right. It's not about the software. It's about the device and the different sort of competition that comes out of it. Or the computer. Would it be here today? Would it be in the same form? It took it 30 years to get to mobile, but it's here. It probably would have eventually happened.
Would it be you, Elijah? What book or movie would you want to see? Other than Henry Ford, was he like killed in a freak accident, or was he never born, or did he just decide, hey, I don't want to build a car, I just want to be a farmer?
It's possible. Or I guess it'd be political figures that'd be kind of interested in seeing it, especially when they're making big moves.
Like JFK still alive? that
Sure,
sort of thing?
or Diefenbaker or somebody like that
Ooh,
that had
Diefenbaker.
that nice role, or even Trudeau who flipped the bird to cameras. Like, how would that represent a Canadian history?
If they weren't there.
Right, or if they were either assassinated or not, or there was maybe a level of greed and mafiaism that kind of layered.
Oh,
maybe
you just inspired me. I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No,
but
if you get excited, that's
my
okay.
favorite alt history thought for Canada has always been, what if we built the freaking Avro Arrow?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
We were close.
I know. We were very close.
Well, point the obvious out. Sorry.
As much as you're not supposed to be like, yay, weapons of mass destruction. Still, the fact that we could have built like the world's premier jet fighter, that would have created like a whole industry and then that just kind of success breeds success, right? Like, because you would just have all those engineers just building the next new one, and we wouldn't need to be sourcing out the stupid Joint Strike Fighter 2 or whatever
Right.
the thing we've been spending billions of dollars on nothing for.
Our defense, we are sending tanks over to the Middle East, so that's fun.
Yeah.
And the arm we built in space.
See,
That's
okay, Canadarm, yes.
That was
because
cool. That's space.
Sure.
Nobody's using that to oppress the native population. Whereas the armored vehicles to the Middle East, no, I don't think we're really.
It's a black eye on our nation for sure.
It's
Sorry,
making us cash, but it's not a favorable.
Yeah.
That's dirty money.
I know that's gonna make us very
Hey,
unpopular
look,
in our own
you
hometown.
sell it. It's not our business what they do with it. Really.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
you have to have an
We'll just call it-
a moral and
okay,
ethical
let
stance.
me-
He's related to Edison somehow. I know he is.
He's
let me
got people working
let me
there.
put something else at you, okay?
Do it.
The asbestos mines and all that. They were still giving all that stuff out to other parts of the world, but not using it here in Canada for
That's
obvious
dirty.
reasons.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
We're not
Wow.
good.
Business is business, unfortunately. You get the exports and imports, and you're
That's
making
what
a
it comes
buck.
down to,
When it
yeah.
comes to bottom dollar and corporations, they're selling it. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter who's affected.
That's
Bottom line.
that's
So
why I believe in ethical business. but
alt history,
it's
there was
bit of
never
an
a
oxymoron.
corporation. There was no such
Well-
thing as LLC.
And that would be
Dream come
my
true.
favorite alt history book to see.
The which?
Would be nice to see what would happen if we didn't invent money. we stayed on the bartering system, how would that play out, right?
So
Where would we be?
Jump back to gold and silver and trading in our favorite game, Jaipur, where you were. I don't know if you played, Harv.
Oh yeah,
I don't
Jaipur.
think so. I
It's
played. No.
East Indian trading, different robes and different things,
Sounds
spices,
fun.
Yeah.
money.
I just
It
feel because if there wasn't that pursuit for one particular item, it might.
But I think in currency, if you shift away paper money, there's still going to be demand and corporate greed or whatever you want to call it, and say silk or whatever's in
There'll
demand.
probably end up being more slaves.
Like
Possible.
Yeah.
like those guys in the BC comic, right? Like they had clams as their currency, right?
Right.
Like even with a barter economy, you'd still have people trying to accumulate more than they need, right?
Right.
Like that's
yeah.
just unfortunate human nature, right? There's just some things you hope it's almost like the best thing you could wish for is that like humans evolved with a better brain or something.
That's why.
If only.
That's sometimes perhaps
instead of
multiple wives or something.
So there you go. There's a full alt history. Instead of evolving from like primates, humanity evolved from lizards or something.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one too. Yeah.
We're pretty chill until we're out in the sun all day, and then we get all.
We never get sunburnt though.
Look like
That's true.
Yeah, that's great.
Got to think about that one. I get sunburnt on the beach all the time. If I could be a lizard, some sort of lizard, be
Descended
weird.
from lizards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like V.
Yes. Oh, great show.
Yeah, love that stuff. Terrified me as a kid.
Harvey Quinn as a lizard is really just kind of creepy though.
Sure.
Can't do it.
No.
I don't want to be born from lizards. They still take 9 months to develop offspring.
This is alt history. We don't know.
I was good. Well,
Wow.
you could kind of postulate that if we evolved from lizards, we would probably have something similar, but
Eggs, just in a basket, just hatch and wee.
oof. I was gonna say that's rough for the ladies out there. That's for sure. Not. Don't think that's any easier than delivering a live baby.
Or double digits. Yeah, those aren't fun.
That means we'd have to sit with the eggs though as males, right? That
Would
be
we?
our-
Is that-
our role? Isn't that
Some
a thing?
species don't.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Just leave them to the wild.
Yeah,
Good luck.
but knowing us,
Tough love.
we'd probably just find a way to incubate them without having to be there.
Oh yeah.
Already doing that
By
is
now,
human
I mean,
nature.
that's-
Yeah.
That's civilization, right?
right.
Like we're not some primitive lizard anymore. We're civilized lizards.
That's right.
Shared that on the Facebook page. Did you see that? The incubator for babies?
Yeah.
Very disturbing.
It-
You watch the thing growing in this clear globe of some sort.
Or kind of the same, similar topic. The one where the Asian team in Japan, I think, they were able to incubate the egg.
The egg, the chicken egg.
Chicken egg, and birth it right from nothing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's disturbing.
Just from DNA.
yeah.
like from the egg itself.
From the egg itself.
So they took a genome from the egg, popped it into whatever petri dish, and poof, egg.
A little bit more to it than that, but yeah, pretty much.
Holy smokes.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So we went from JFK to mixing up the side of the road to now eggs. Not scrambled, but lizard eggs. It's been a hell of an episode. Harv, Chris, Nathan, myself, great conversation. It's a little off the beaten path for us, but certainly mind bender and a good conversation nonetheless. We'll leave you with this for the weekend. I think we need some beer to really take this all in. Until then, have a great weekend. Well, like all good things, they must come to an end, my friends. Another show is in the books, and we had so much fun starting the weekend off right, just with you. Nerdy by Nature here with you, discovering the world around us, learning new things, and having a great conversation. Couldn't get to everything, though, in this episode, so please head over to letusgetnerdy.com, check out the show notes, the research, and all the extras. Just couldn't fit in today. While you're there, feel free to subscribe, Android or iOS. It's all good. If you want to say hi, leave a comment below the notes or click on Contact Us, whichever your heart desires. If you want to get crazy and social and right into it with us, please do. Head over to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, search up Let Us Get Nerdy, won't you? Hashtag, @mention us, say some cool stuff, or call us out. For Nerdy by Nature, thank you so much for listening. Take care.